Welcome to Missing Chronicles, where we delve into the heartbreaking and enigmatic mysteries surrounding disappearances. Here, we will immerse ourselves in the world of unsolved cases, thrilling search efforts, and intricate journeys. The goal of this channel is to spread awareness, foster community connections, and provide support to the families and loved ones of the missing. Join me as we embark on a suspenseful journey, hoping to uncover the truth behind these missing chronicles. Help us sustain and grow Missing Chronicles by becoming a patron on Patreon. Your contribution ensures that we can continue our investigations, share compelling stories, and work towards a world where no one is forgotten. Join us in making a lasting impact today. The unexplained phenomenon, vanishing hikers in the Australian mountains. Now, let's take a look at the strange vanishings of hikers in the Australian mountains. At number 1, we have Conrad Whitlock. Conrad Whitlock was 72 years old at the time of his disappearance on July 28, 2019. He vanished under mysterious circumstances after telling his wife that night, around 8:30 in the evening, right before he retired for the night and went to bed, that he wouldn't see her in the morning because he had to go and get some tests done early. Conrad had recently been suffering from extreme headaches and presumably was going to get it checked out. Just before 3 a.m. on the 29th, the E-tag on Conrad's BMW was detected on the Miranda Highway on the way to Victoria's High Country. 3 hours later, he drove through the entrance gate at the Mount Buller Resort, witnessed by several other motorists who all claimed to have seen Conrad himself behind the wheel. Approximately 7 hours after he had left his home in the middle of the night, seemingly with no destination or reason in mind, at 10 a.m., his car was found abandoned on the side of the road, and Conrad had seemingly vanished right into the ether. He hasn't been seen or heard from since. When Conrad's wife, Mandy, woke in the morning and couldn't find her husband, she called the police and expressed her concerns to them. They then tracked his phone to Mount Buller, where his car was found abandoned and empty. With his keys still in the ignition, what followed was an exhaustive 6-day search effort to try and locate the missing elderly man, who up until now had shown no signs of dementia or other mental illness. There seemed to be no rhyme or reason why he had left his home when he did or drove the route that he did, just to end up abandoning his car haphazardly parked on the side of this isolated road. The rescue effort included police, Mount Buller search and rescue specialists, forestry workers, a dog squad, and an air wing. Dozens of searchers and volunteers combed the area where Mr. Whitlock's BMW was found, but it was all to no avail, as no other trace of him has ever been found. The overnight temperatures in the area at that time were dropping to around -3 degrees Celsius or 37.4 degrees Fahrenheit, and it had started to snow. It's believed he had no provisions with him at all and was definitely not equipped for such harsh weather. The coroner stated that, because of certain things going on in the world at this time, due to the pandemic, NSW cadaver dogs weren't able to join the search until months after Conrad had initially gone missing. Peter Towner, a former Victoria police detective who worked on the case, said this at the time: "It was a long delay, and that, I think, has compounded the fact that we didn't find him. I don't think we'll ever find him." Coroner Parisa Spanos asked Mr. Towner, "We're about 15 months after the event. Do you know if the cadaver dogs would be expected to find a trace?" His response was, "They were quite confident that if he was out there, they would have found him. I wouldn't say they were unsuccessful, they just didn't find him. He wasn't where they searched." It was later discovered that just a few days before he had seemingly disappeared into thin air, Conrad was participating in a practice session at a racetrack with his Mustang when he crashed into a barrier. It's alleged that he didn't hit his head, but witnesses came forward and said that he had a large bruise on his forehead. This is when his wife said he started complaining of severe headaches. It was also uncovered by investigators that right before he vanished, Mr. Whitlock had been searching on his computer for things like amnesia and memory loss. The lapsed Scientologist was even searching about his previous religion, with the search for the word Scientology. Mr. Towner believes that Conrad's head injuries could be the cause of the disappearance, and he also believes he could have become confused and disoriented when he woke up at around 3 a.m. and decided to get into his car for whatever reason to go for a drive. He stated, "My personal opinion is that a bang on his head manifested in his mind that he had an underlying serious brain embolism or something like that." Conrad was also recently prescribed what was referred to as a powerful painkiller, which was never found out and was presumably on him when he went missing. The investigators say that all of this combined with the high altitudes, freezing cold temperatures, and the fact that he hadn't eaten would definitely account for why he had most likely succumbed to the elements. Mr. Towner, who now works for the Victoria Police but in the capacity as a public servant since retiring, also stated the following: "You could simply hide under a log, under a fern. Then you could literally walk straight over the top of him and not know that a body was there." He also stated, "He became drowsy and disoriented. And I simply believe he wandered off from that car and met his demise. Whether he's just slipped and fallen without any other evidence, I have to believe that he's out there somewhere." Next up, we have Niels Becker. Niels Becker, 39 years old, was described by those who knew him best as strong, fit, and resilient. He prepared for months to embark on a 5-day solo hike in the Alpine National Park. On October 24, 2019, Niels left Upper Jameson Hut to start his journey. It seems as though Niels was right on course to complete his 5-day hike, as on October 26, he messaged some family members from Vallejo Ganter Hut to tell them he was heading to Mount Sterling and then heading back to his vehicle on the 29th. As he planned. He never made it back, though, and that's where this mystery begins. Niels was reported missing after his family hadn't heard from him in 2 weeks, and they thought he simply needed more time and couldn't contact them for whatever reason. Being as he was usually very independent and an avid outdoorsman, especially when it came to hiking, they weren't at all concerned. Once the report was made, though, a group of about 70 volunteers, including the police, a dog squad, air wing, bush search and rescue, state emergency service, and the Department of Environment, searched for him around the clock in and around the location where he said he would have been hiking, which was in Victoria's northeast. They searched for the entire week until the weekend when the search was scaled back significantly, mainly due to the temperatures in the bush at night. Senior Sergeant Damien Keegan said authorities were still appealing to the public for information. Like with any of these searches, we always strive to return loved ones back to their family. We'll continue on with that view that at some stage we will find Niels and will be able to give some closure to the family. Senior Sergeant Keegan said the police had a few theories as to what could have possibly happened to Niels Becker. The theories mainly dealt with the freezing cold overnight temperatures and the fact that Niels could have walked out of the search area and succumbed to hypothermia, therefore never having been found. This is very likely because nobody was sure which route he was taking to get back to his car. Niels's parents, Johanna and Piers Becker, said their son had meticulously planned the hike for an entire 6 months before heading out and chose the dates he did because he wanted to spend his 39th birthday walking in Victoria's high country. They said he had been training by walking around Melbourne carrying a rucksack. They also talked about Niels having a high affinity for the high country and how he had hiked it many times before with no issues or concerns. This was going to be the longest hike he had ever gone on alone, though. Niels loved writing and performing Christian music and lived at home with his parents. His parents said, "Last week I was so optimistic, and my daughter said he'll come out with an epic story. But I think after Tuesday and yesterday, well, we're not so optimistic." Johanna Becker said, his father, Peter, said he's a bit of an independent person. He writes a lot of poetry. A lot of the writing is about the high country and Mount Buller. Niels's parents asked for anyone with any information to please come forward to the police, especially if they remember having had contact with a solo hiker in that specific area or the surrounding areas. Last up, we have Warren Meyer. On the morning of March 23, 2008, 57-year-old Warren Meyer left his home to go for a simple hike to enjoy the new spring air. While no one is sure of exactly which hike in the Yarra Ranges the experienced hiker chose to take, there were only 2, with each one able to be completed in about 4 hours. So, Warren's wife kissed him and waved goodbye, expecting him to return in a little more than that 4-hour time frame. He had plans with his wife and some of their friends to meet for lunch that same day, and Warren was a reliable man who wasn't often late, especially without calling. This time was different, though, and when her husband was a no-call, no-show that day for the lunch engagement, she immediately knew that something was wrong. Later in that same afternoon, Warren's vehicle was found in the Dom Dom Saddle parking lot. Where he had parked it when he left for the hike that day, Warren Meyer ran a successful civil engineering consultancy business in Elwood, Melbourne, and Victoria, Australia, and had no reason whatsoever to have disappeared on his own accord. He was happily married, and he and his wife had 2 children whom they adored. He never got to meet his 2 grandchildren, as they were born after he had vanished. His wife believes he'd be really enjoying his retirement right now and enjoying their life together had he not vanished off the face of the earth that fine spring day back in March of 2008. Warren's parents passed away never having received any answers as to what happened to him. He walked into the woods for a hike one day and was never seen or heard from again, just like so many of the missing people we talk about here on this channel. After waiting for years to finally have a ruling on how the case was handled and what avenues were taken to ascertain what could have happened to her husband, Mrs. Meyer received, unsurprisingly according to her own words, a very unsatisfactory explanation. The inquest determined Warren's date of death was unidentified, his manner of death undetermined, and the place of his death unknown. There are many other factors and concerns the family has about how this case was handled. But to get to the bottom of every detail mishandled to Warren's disappearance might take away from one simple fact, the fact at the heart of the matter itself, Warren Meyer, simply vanished, and there is no information whatsoever to even allude to where he may have gone and what might have happened to him. As all of these hikers continue to vanish, rumors and speculation run rampant through the surrounding towns. Is there a mountain man, feral people, or cryptids known or unknown that are responsible? Is it all or none of the above or something else entirely? We may never know the answers, as the mountains and forests hold their secrets close. All we can do is continue to search. Never giving up on our quest to find the answers and perhaps bring some peace of mind and possibly closure to the families of the victims. What is really going on here? Again, there isn't much hope in finding answers. Places so beautiful and majestic create their own legends, ones which outsiders may not know or ever hear about. Wild speculation, oftentimes well-intentioned but more harmful than good, for the most part, leads to so many rabbit holes. Rabbit holes which we will continue to jump down into and report on the mysteries we find there. What's out there at night in the darkness of the unpredictable wilderness? The authorities often say it's mere coincidence that all these people went missing under strange, mysterious circumstances, never to be seen or heard from again, as if the vanishing off the face of the earth is a perfectly ordinary thing. Perhaps that's exactly what it's becoming, mundane, accepted as a part of life for hunters and wilderness lovers everywhere. Can we just sit back and accept that, though? What are your thoughts on these strange vanishings? Thank you for watching Missing Chronicles. We have explored captivating stories and searched for answers behind the vanished. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to stay updated with our latest videos. Share these videos to spread the message and assist affected families and loved ones. If you have any information related to the cases we've discussed, please leave them in the comments section. Together, we can make a difference. See you in the next Missing Chronicles.